9 weeks, 112 matches, and 3 months of remote competition have all led up to this. Live from the Greek Theater in beautiful Los Angeles, it's the Mid-Season Showdown, delivered by Grubhub. For the first time in more than a year, our players are arriving on site as they prepare for their battle in the lower bracket finals. I am, of course, James Dash Patterson, joined today in the flesh by my wonderful analysts. And this is who I've got. I've got Raz, I've got High, and I've got Primal. Gentlemen, it is so good to see your beautiful faces.
Yes!
You too, man. We're free.
We are in this incredible arena. I've got analysts who have legs.
I'm already
promise you that. We've got space to move and run. I know we've been sedentary for so long, but they finally unlocked us from our remote prison. You know we had to come back in a big way. So today and tomorrow, we will be bringing you a whole hour of countdown. It's all the Raz that we are legally allowed to broadcast.
Facts.
Okay, yeah, that's it, facts.
True.
A minute more.
You can speak to my lawyer.
And you stop us, all right? Now, before we dive too deep into our own show, our good pals at G4 are hosting their own basement co-stream over at twitch.tv/G4TV. Pop on over and tell Papa Smithy, Ovely, and the whole crew there hello on our behalf. And make sure to fans all around the world that they can catch this week's action. Our friends over at FlyQuest are delivering a Spanish co-stream at twitch.tv/FlyQuest. Be sure to tune in and give your support to their squad as well. But our action here today kicks off with the clash of lower bracket titans TSM and Team Liquid. Their rematch today is a race for the sole spot remaining in tomorrow's grand final against Cloud9. And when it comes to that match, I mean, it's going to be no small feat because while Team Liquid and TSM have proven their own individual strengths throughout the season, Cloud9 is an accomplished org with 3 LCS championships already under their belts. And it just so happens that we have one of the members who played a part in creating that legacy for Cloud9 here on the stage.
Who's that? Was that Raz?
I think that was Raz.
so.
Raz,
Yeah,
right?
Raz.
Yeah,
I remember
you
that.
played
Amazing.
mid-lane, right?
Yeah.
Wicked Zed player, some solid LeBlanc games, shot calling,
Keep
big
popping up that
and all that
mid-laner,
kind
keep
of stuff.
popping up.
Not
Say
jogging,
more good things.
Yeah, no. In actuality, Hi, it's so great to have you here on this stage today and in a finals weekend, but to give us that perspective of what it was like to help build that legacy, but ultimately to take the title of LCS champion.
Right. It's been quite a while now. If you remember me winning specifically on C9 with the team, you might be a boomer nowadays if you recall that time. It's been about 8 to 7 years since I've played for Cloud9 and won championships with them. So it's been a long time. However, they're starting to look really good again. I think they might be able to take another win soon, guys.
Yeah, just they lined up with you coming back to the LCS just in a different role, and C9 is going sky high again. Of course, while C9 is a phenomenal team and they await the arrival of one of their opponents from today's matches, TSM, they're no slouches either, all right? With legendary alumni like Bjergsen and Doublelift, they are the most decorated org in LCS history. Before we get onto that TSM squad, though, we have to relive some of those top moments from the C9 years.
Yeah, with C9, I mean, like, just reminding myself of the members that have been in international events, like, you know, Sven Skarens, you know, Jensen, Impact. Like, they've had players that have gone to international events before, but seeing the team today is what I'm excited for, the new guard that's coming through.
I totally agree. And we have to remember, this is a C9 that won Spring last year and arguably has only gotten better. They have the MVP in the league in Blabber. They have first-team All-Pro mid laner Perks. They have first-team All-Pro in Sven. And in my opinion, Vulcan should have been first-team as well. And then we got Fudge, who outperformed Alfari. So this team is looking real scary.
I mean, scary to say the least, but as I mentioned, one of their possible opponents coming out of today's series would be that TSM squad, the winningest org in the history of the LCS, and the man who led them to those titles for most of it is now in the head coaching position.
Right, and I'm not going to take fault for giving TSM so many wins. I may or may not have been involved in giving them a couple, lost to them in finals a few times, but at the end of the day, they're here again, they're making it through the lower bracket run, they're looking extremely dominant. Now, I want to see if they can take another title. It's been quite a while, and I don't know if they have it today. What do you guys think?
That's the thing, like, because if we look back to what got them the championship last split, it was off the veterancy of Bjergsen, Doublelift, players who've been there before, that you have faith when they get into the thick of things in playoff moments that they can make it happen. Now, looking at the new TSM, you still got veteran players. You still got Huni in the top lane, Power of Evil, who's been in those moments, was at Worlds last year, and I look towards the bottom lane. You got Sword Art, literal Worlds finalist. They can do it. It's very much possible. You have to respect them.
Yeah, and I respect them, but I think it's harder this time because this time we have a TL that opened the pocketbook and were like, we're going to get some of the best players in every position, and C9 as well.
So check.
Yeah, just check. So I think, look, a miracle run is possible, but it will be even more of a miracle this time, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, you mentioned the pedigree of the players on TSM, but we can't talk about TSM without their opponents today as well. Team Liquid, our first ever lock-in champs from just this year, boasting 4 other LCS titles to boot. And just a reminder that those 4 titles came back to back to back to back.
Yeah, so when I'm talking about championship pedigree amongst the players, this organization has had that championship pedigree. Been in the MSI Finals once before, and have been a world time and time again. When they picked up players like Alfari and had Santorin, their mindset was to get to Worlds once again and to start with MSI. So even though, talking about TSM and their road, Team Liquid has that expectations from the fans to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, too, when you talk about that MSI finalist appearance, it was lost to one of the members that sits on one of those championship squads tomorrow in Perks for Cloud9.
Okay.
Yeah, he will not be named
Yeah.
just yet. We will get to him in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it has been incredible to watch this Team Liquid squad throughout the years because, Primal, people might forget the era of Team Liquid that was without a title.
Yeah, this was a Team Liquid that was a meme for coming in fourth constantly, right? But they completely changed the trajectory over the last few years. In this very year, they won lock-in, and a lot of people were questioning, is this team even going to drop a game during the split? Now, obviously, the question is, yeah, they're going to drop some games, but they're still a top 2 contender, and arguably a team that can take the entire thing. So this team's trajectory has changed completely over the last few years.
Now, of course, these teams are more than just their past. In 2021, they continued to invest in their futures and position themselves for both domestic and global dominance. And Raz, I think the first team to talk about when we talk about big ticket pickups from last year to this year, it's got to be Team Liquid.
Yeah, and I mentioned the pickups that they've had in the preseason, bringing up Alfari, first all-pro LEC top laner. And even though he was on a team that was bumming out in Origin, like, he was showing that he was a diamond in the rough there. And you bring in Santorin from the previous split, by the way, who was the best jungler when he was on FlyQuest. So I'm looking at this team, and I had high expectations. I still have high expectations for Team Liquid, bringing on those players, already having a world-class support in Core JJ as well.
Yeah, of course, we did hear that today we will be subbing out Santorin, at least for the first game. We will talk a little bit more about that sub situation for you at home a little later on. But again, on this topic of veterancy as well as big ticket pickups, I think TSM is hotly in the running for pickups this split, Primal.
Absolutely, and I think this year's TSM is defined by veterancy, as Raz noted, and hunger, right? This is a PoE who has been considered one of the elite players in his role, but he hasn't won yet. Lost, hasn't had the opportunity to win LCS yet either. And Huni was a player that a lot of people had written off as this guy who's like stealing checks. He's not an elite top anymore, but I think Huni has something to say about that. So I think TSM, they have the pedigree and the veterancy to survive in high pressure situations, and they have the hunger to bring it to a win.
Yeah, and just at the beginning of the split, when I knew that I was coming to the LCS and I heard that Swordart was being picked up, I was like, well, damn. I was like, okay, like, the expectations are there for a reason. It's not an expectation that is just regional based. The world saw that pickup from Swordart, and you're seeing great things from TSM.
Now, you guys keep talking about TSM and Team Liquid. I swear I am not biased, by the way. I want to
Okay.
talk a little bit.
I wonder where this
about
is
Perks
going, huh?
And Cloud9. I'm pretty excited for that pickup. I am mid laner, so I love seeing new mid laners come join the league. He's one of the best Western players of all time, if not the best Western player. You know, after me, of course.
Right.
Okay,
But,
that's a straight up.
Not only
We'll
is there
debate
an
that one
amazing mid laner on Cloud9, they have the MVP Blabber on their team. They have the best AD carry in North America. They have Fudge, soon to be one of the top 3 top laners. Maybe not there yet in my book, maybe different in your guys' books, I'm not sure. And then one of the best supports in the team too. So, I don't know. I'm pretty excited to see him play.
I mean, the way the high talks, it sounds like it's written in stone who's taking the title already, but that will have to wait until tomorrow. And just one more point on the topic about some of these huge pickups and all of the international success that some of these players have had, with multiple players now in the league that have gone to World Finals. You got Perks having made it not only to a World Final and falling just short, but taking that MSI title as well. I think the thing that sticks out to me most about the Perks acquisition, though, is his domestic dominance. And that is what we're here to figure out this week, is who's going to take the LCS title. And of course, while Perks is obviously a huge boon for C9, there is another core member of that squad who's been striking fear into the hearts of his competitors for several splits now, taking names and wins left and right. Now, for all those reasons, and of course the votes of the powers that be, it's time to celebrate our Honda MVP.
The greatest of the individual awards, the Honda MVP. We got to talk about the man. It's Blabber.
It feels good to win 2 MVPs in 3 splits. I am the best jungler right now, and I think I have been throughout my career.
Blabber just looks like he's doing it again. Every single game, this guy just seems to dominate.
It's way too early to say that I'm the best jungler NA's ever had. Xmithy, Svenskeren, they have multiple titles. They have been, the top junglers in NA, but I've been in the league for a year and a half now, and my consistency as a player has been very noticeable.
Oh, Blabber on a rampage.
So my career is just starting.
Blabber finding a good trade here onto him nice and early. And Blabber takes first blood. Blabber's going in there. They want to get this going. Oh no, they're gonna get him again. Blabber, you got it. This is bully.
This guy just seems to dominate when you give him the Olaf.
There's your dive as Blabber's grabbing a shutdown.
Nobody wants quality, they only want.
But that ain't no regular Viking. Blabber turning it on.
Just gonna run him down. There is no counterplay.
I am not coming down.
Blabber, he is just built different.
And what is that? Blabber's paying a repeat visit. Blabber, he's gonna chase it.
For me to consider myself to be the best jungler, I would want to have continued success in NA and internationally too.
The flash follow. Blabber. That was beautiful by Blabber, and he does it again.
I am here with our latest Honda MVP, Blabber. 1 year ago today, you received the same honor. Now you repeat the feat in front of the Greek. How does this time compare to the first time around?
I think it feels similar. I was really happy when I got it for the first time because it was my first MVP and my first split playing. But I'm also really happy to get it again. And I won last split when I got MVP, so I'm hoping to do the same this year.
Yeah, your quick surge into the spotlight may leave some forgetting the fact that that spring was your first time as a starter on the roster, having previously shared the jungle position. With a year and a half under your belt, in what ways do you feel that you've developed as a player?
I would definitely say that I feel like my play's been more consistent as of late. I think when I first started as a player, there was a lot of times where I was making mistakes that should be uncharacteristic of an MVP player, and I think my gameplay's been more consistent, and I think I've improved a lot since I first joined the league.
I mean, that consistency has paid off now, making you a consistent winner of the MVP award, putting you alongside the likes of Bjergsen and CoreJJ as multi-time winners. Now, with all of that considered, though, how does that play into what kind of legacy you want to build in the LCS for the many years you have to come in your career?
Yeah, so for me, I've only started my career. It's only been about a year and a half, at least being a full-time starter in the LCS, and I want to be able to win more titles. I'm really glad I'm able to win MVPs, but for me, winning titles is probably the most important thing, as well as performing well internationally. So I wasn't able to do that last year, but I'm hoping we're able to do that this year.
Well, you've always been vocal about keeping the team at the forefront, those that have supported you. With yet another accolade under your belt, is there anyone that you would like to specifically acknowledge or shout out when you take this honor?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to just thank my team in general. I think Perks, honestly, has been a big help for me in learning about mid-jungle. He's taught me a lot that even though I've been playing for a while, there's a lot of stuff that I could have improved on. I think as well the rest of my team has been playing extremely well. I think Fudge has grown a lot as a player, and my ball lane's been smurfing like they have been, for the last year and a half. So really happy to have the teammates that I have right now.
Still learning and still smurfing as you head to the main stage. Congratulations again, Blabber, on your honor.
Thank you very much.
With that, everyone, we're going to send it back to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
I love how humble he was in that interview, but I think this guy is actually even better than he's selling himself. Like, he was rookie of the split. He won last spring with C9, and at every point of the game, this guy's a huge threat. You try to throw 3 bans at him, he goes deeper in the pool, he pulls out a Kindred. You try to run flashless Camille top, he's like, okay, you're never going to get to do that again because I'm just going to kill you 3 times and end the game. So this guy has been a monster this entire split, and I think since the start of his career.
I mean, 2 MVPs across 3 splits in the league. I don't know anyone else who's done that before, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. And this was, of course, an expected result for many people. But Alfari, Core JJ, Perks, these were the other names in the running. And it was Blabber, though, who was just a clear favorite after his dominant performance this spring.
Yeah, I think with Blabber, what we saw was that sense of omnipresence, right? Like you mentioned, the fact that he was on the map early, getting ganks towards bot side, top lane a lot. His team plays through him. And a lot of the times when you see a team that plays so consistently for their jungler, you want to see him, give back. And he does that and then some. I think what I saw differently from this split, from the previous split, is the fact that now working with Perks, it's a give and take. That if we can play now carries in the mid lane, and then we can try and support that. And I think that what I'm seeing more from Blabber is literally that. He's consistent, he's timed his aggression when he needs to do it. I love it this year.
I think the most important thing for me is the fact that this entire split has been a jungle-focused meta, and who else to give MVP to than the jungler, and the #1 team has #1 in almost every single stat category possible. It's really hard to not give MVP to him, and I'm happy he got it. He's crushed his split.
All right, well, again, it's no surprise, I think, to many that he picks up the award, but even again, touching back in on that interview itself, he cited that while winning MVPs in individual awards is great, it's that title that he wants. He's got one under his belt from last spring, but he wants to continue to perform at that level and bring it home for both his team and his squad, and then perform internationally.
Yeah, and I'll say his team is a favorite to do it, so more titles might be coming.
All right, well, congratulations once again to this man up here on the screens behind me, Blabber, for picking up that Honda MVP. We will be seeing more from him tomorrow, but as we step away, we got to say RIP to 100 Thieves.
Perks jumps forward with the distortion, but he barely misses the AoE on distortion, so now he flashes after and he grabs the first blood. Damonte, what are you doing?
Damonte flashing in, looking for the stun, but isn't going to find it. Here's Griffin. His first blood goes over to RJS.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're really confident with everything that we do. I would say even in our game today, we were super confidently inting the early game.
Win or loss, are you preparing to celebrate with closer, but also stop him from beating up the couch if you lose?
No one can stop Closer from beating up the couch after a loss.
He's not pulling off a miracle of any shape, color, or size. Yes, the games were close. Yes, 100 Thieves was able to stop him from making it a clean sweep, but TSM will defeat 100 Thieves 3-1.
It's lights out in this assist of the day presented by State Farm. In a fight for Baron, TSM made sure to make 100 Thieves feel like they were in a true nightmare.
Ryoma's trying to get away right as we sing his praises. He's shut down, and TSM makes themselves a big pick and an even bigger pick after. Who he tries to get away. Hooney's going to be taken down to 100. Everybody on 100 Thieves is falling apart. How does it keep happening?
Let's check some stats real quick.
Hashtag Jet stats.
Arena is in a really bad spot to TV right now.
I can solo kill him here, I think.
No jump.
Okay. I might flash on him.
I think you got it. Right?
Yep.
Nice. Huge.
No flash. I'm fine. No flash.
I'm fighting mid. I'm gold. No one takes it. I have stopwatch. Look, MF.
Yeah, I'm ulting.
I'm on health.
Hey, slowly. Watch it, watch it.
I'm flashed out. Just careful as you don't run into him.
Slowly. He's dead.
Nice. I'm one health. Jason, we can enter him. Don't kill him. Okay, you can kill actually. He's dead now, yeah, nice.
GPS ulti, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
GP ulti. I'm moving first.
Okay. She's on. What the tactical. No flash.
Yeah, I'm running.
Tam.
Ulti in 10, guys. Ult in 10.
I'm gonna hit him over the wall, okay?
Okay. Ult in 5.
We can end, guys. Aphelios. I hope Aphelios.
Yeah, kill him.
Penta?
Was that your fence?
Oh.
My bad, yeah. This always happens. How do you know? Nothing was said to. Ah, hold on. Sorry, Mr. Jensen.
Yeah, 14 assists. I'm a support.
I'm trying to win this. Just maybe even look for dive. Maybe even look for dive. Yeah, I can look for dive. Ultimate. If you get it, you can go. Go. Oh, Ezra? I will look for Ezra. Ezra.
Nice.
Leona.
Front to back. Still.
W2. Big W.
Slow. Okay,
I can go. W6.
He's doing his.
I kill it.
Okay.
Nice.
Keep going. No flash.
No flash. Okay.
No. Habelis coming.
Just figure so they need to fight.
Doubles has flash.
Yeah, just wait.
I'm gonna
I can flash ulti here.
This is good. Go first.
Yeah, actually. Wing just in.
Wait, close. No ulti for Traya. How is it?
I'm crying.
Take
it slow.
Watch me.
Yeah. Nice.
Surfing. That's a better. No, Penta. My bad.
It's okay. It's all good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mid-Season Showdown delivered by Grubhub. Now, Team Liquid started the season off with a bang by dominating through our lock-in tournament, though they've stumbled here and there throughout the split. TL seemed to be hitting their stride right at the end of spring. We just got a quick look at the comms between the two teams the last time they met here in the postseason. But hi, let's talk about how Team Liquid has made this all happen.
Right, well, they had Santorin back then, so it might be a little bit different nowadays, but they had a very big top laner in a lot of their games, which they used to facilitate pushing lane advantages for top, and then they translate that pressure into other lanes as well. Now, it's something that they've been working on all split, actually. Alfari's been a monster of a laner. They've had some struggles in translating it, but throughout the split, they've played more and more with him. They've learned how to play as a team. And instead of just ganking top 20 times in a single game, they've learned that he can leave top lane, he can teleport to fights, he can go mid, he can go bot, and it's just gotten better and better.
Yeah, the flexibility, I think, is really worth noting. I think the one big thing for me has been Team Liquid since lock-in had to really work at that discipline factor. A lot of the times I would look at their early game going into mid game, they would have great vision on objectives, be it Baron or Dragon, and then there would be a moment. Like one moment in game that would just screw it all up. And that's something that they've been really pushing back on. You know, when I've been watching them in the last 2 weeks of the regular season, I've noticed they're much cleaner games. And I think it's because when they were talking, you were hearing players saying that they wanted to play more aggressively. They didn't want to be that whole slow farming Team Liquid. So trying to find a balance is really important for this team. I think they are willing to fight. It really just depends, now that they have a new piece, how that's going to look.
Yeah, and I think that aggression is great. It doesn't necessarily need to manifest as tactical jumping in and dying, in jungle. Right. But I agree. Yeah, this is the best early game team of the league, right? And they have been actually all year. And what we need to see them now is take these early game leads and convert them into advantages that actually result in wins.
Right, and to that effect, it was the coaching staff that was very vocal about the fact that they were pushing the players to work on that aggression throughout the split, even though sometimes it would result in a tactical in. Now, their opponents today had a bit of a slower start to the season. Though TSM struggled in the lock-in tournament, their early growing pains in development of key players paid off to earn them the second place in the regular season standings. Let's not forget that they are actually higher ranked technically coming in here against Team Liquid.
They are, and I think a big story for TSM has just been growth overall. In particular, Huni has emerged as a incredibly impressive weak side player. The beginning of the split, we saw a lot of issues with him on Gnar, out of position, getting picked in situations where he doesn't have to. But over time, he started to know his limits, realize, okay, when there's pressure on me, I just need to back away. And instead, we have him making plays where he is turning around, plays where he's getting collapsed on, PoE is teleporting to help him in the side lanes, and sometimes TSM actually gets a objective like a Baron out of Huni going for a split push. So overall, I think a big narrative for this team has been Huni getting much more consistent.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times when you see this team, how they team fight, or as you've mentioned, when you're seeing solo plays being made from Huni, you know, it's really chaotic. And a lot of the times they don't have the vision that I'm giving credit to a Cloud9 or a Team Liquid. But for me, they're getting better at that, and they're showcasing creativity in the draft. Sometimes it's not looking good, But but I still love seeing like the ideas of the Nocturne and Rel, like core things that I looked at and I was like, I haven't seen this globally up until that game. And I think it's smart. I want to see them channel that a little bit more.
You know, I don't actually think TSM is that creative of a team. Maybe I'll give you that their top laner is creative with the Nocturne pick, Rumble pick, things like that. But their mid laner has the smallest champion pool out of all the mid laners still here. He's not bad by any means, don't get me wrong. He's amazing at what he plays, but he doesn't play very many champs. Their play style is very one-dimensional, in my opinion. They have explored other play styles where they try to split push with Jays, they try to pick a lot of Shen, and they've done that well. But their main predominant play style is to do that front to back due to the fact that they're a hard carry mid laner.
Yeah, I totally agree, Hyde. They're not that creative, and that's okay. If you got one dimension, dominate that dimension.
Okay, you answered the question I was about to ask. It's the age-old, you know, can you be good at only one thing in League of Legends? And I think if you are the best at that thing, the answer is very much yes. Now, as we've seen that growth from TSM throughout the season, they'll need to continue to adapt in this series here today against Team Liquid and their star top laner, Alphari.
This year, Team Liquid welcomed a new star in the top lane. So to give you the full story on the Welsh top laner, here's Alphari Oversimplified. Barney Morris started competing professionally in the European Challenger Series in 2015, where he would eventually land himself on Misfits Gaming, pushing the young squad all the way up to the EU LCS. Alphari became a contender right out the gate, and his Misfits squad looked dominant with a 7-1 start, but fizzled out towards the end of the split, going 1-4 before being eliminated by Unicorns of Love in the semifinals. In summer, they once again had a strong start to the split, and despite a weak second half, they made it to playoffs and got all the way to the finals before falling short to G2. Despite that disappointment, the finals berth meant that Alphari would attend Worlds in his first year of major competition. It was there, in China, where Alphari, alongside Ignar and Power of Evil, would shock the world with miracle after miracle. After narrowly escaping groups, the EU squad's hopes seemed all but lost when they drew the reigning champs, SKT. But Misfits refused to roll over, and Alphari, as well as his team, went blow for blow with Huni and the rest of SKT, bringing the Korean powerhouse to 5 games before just barely falling short. After that miracle run, Alphari would narrowly miss Worlds the next year, and was then signed by Origin, where despite strong spring splits in both 2019 and 2020, the team was plagued by regressions in summer. No matter the lows, Alphari continued to earn the respect of fans and pros alike. Now in the LCS on Team Liquid, Alphari enters the league as something new, the favorites. He aims to leave his stamp on North America and reach higher heights than ever before. That is all you need to know for Alphari Oversimplified.
Now, Alphari has definitely elevated Team Liquid's play this spring, but let's go ahead and check in on how Twitter thinks he compares to his competitor today in Huni.
Whoa!
And, at first glance, gents, we were just talking about all the improvement that TSM and specifically Huni as an individual had made this split, and yeah, that is a very one-sided report card if I've ever seen one, Primal.
Yeah, so I think unlike some past report cards, this is not outlandish. I could see how one would believe Alphari is heavily favored in this matchup. That said, if we look at recent history, Huni was just player of the series versus Someday, who is a good laner in his own right. Alphari did not have a good series against C9. And I think overall, if we look at the history of TL TSM matchups over the course of the split, it hasn't been Huni getting bodied consistently. So I think this is more competitive than maybe that shows.
Exactly. That's why I have a 60-40. And honestly, when I took this as great offense. Huni doesn't even have to look at this. I was looking at this, I was offended for him. I will say at least the voting is more so how many people think Alphari is better than Huni.
Correct.
Rather than like how close they are. So then I turn back to, you're saying 20% of fans think Huni is better than Alphari?
Yeah.
That's when I start changing my opinion and how I view the voting is from the fans.
Yeah, that means 20% of fans are die-hard TSM fans.
Yeah, exactly. What that means there. But again, when we talk about these two guys going up against each other, this is one of the most interesting things to me. Of course, some of the classics in the shared champion pool, things that we expect to have, some, certain amount of priority placed on them. But as soon as it gets to the uniques high, I'm curious how you evaluate these two players.
Well, I think they have interesting champion pools, and Raz really wants to say something right now.
Oh, no, I was letting you go. I just wanted to be, I'm going to hop in after you. You go.
No, let me hear.
Please. Okay. I think a lot of people, when they look at Huni, they think of him just like someone who wants to play just for lane or the Nocturnes or the Rumbles and not really as an enchanter type. The Lulu that we saw here, and when I was coaching an academy, the fact that he would play out the Karma as well. Like, he is the type of person that wants to play for the team as well, as long as it makes sense in lane. So that's something that I want a lot of people to recognize, is that Huni has a deep champion pool. It's more so you just don't know what he's going to be picking up until you get to it on the day.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm concerned about with Huni is he is pretty reliant on the Gnar, despite having a deep pool. And we know Alphari is willing to punish that. He's willing to play a pick like Aurelia and just go straight up and say, I'm going to kill you in lane if you take this pick. So overall, I think Huni does have a wide champion pool, but they do seem to skew into a few particular champions.
I think the main thing that I take away from this matchup is the fact that Alphari has said that he respects Huni as a player and think Huni's a good player and a very good player. If you're able to say that about someone else, you're probably saying that because you think you're better than them, right? Like I'm gonna be like, hey, you're a really good player, but secretly I'm better than you.
Am I a good player?
Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
Hey. But now I know you think you're better than me. All right, true fact though, true fact. All right, from the top lane to the mid lane, we got to talk about these two other solo laners. Let's get the report card back up in the screen. Once again, see where all of you land on this matchup. What was immediately interesting to me when we talk about these players is your consideration for the shallowness of Power of Evil's pool, and yet his ability with that shallow champion pool to kind of rise above the rest.
Right. Like, I think he's mechanically proficient. Like, I've seen his Lucian and Soloki. I've seen him play those characters. He's not bad by any means, but the way you play them in a competitive is a lot different than playing Seraphine or Orianna or Azir. Just the way you play is different, and your team has to adjust to that. I have Jensen over Power Evil because of that fact. I think Jensen has a bigger champion pool that his team knows how to play around. It's not necessarily a hit on PoE or anything like that. And just the fact I've played against Jensen before, he likes to try and pressure you off of every CS, where Power Evil won't challenge you as hard as he does.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Power of Evil, as you said, is he's a control mage player, right? We know what he brings to the table, and fortunately, this is a meta where control mages are quite good. So, I expect to bring out the Victors, the Oriannas, the Azirs, and he should just do that. Don't go to the Lucian, because as Hai mentioned, it's one thing to be able to play the champion well as an individual. It's another thing to have a whole team adjust around that play style.
As we speak right now, players are making their way up to their stations. You can hear some of the excitement in their own voices, but making their way to the computers with just 25 minutes to go. Raz, get in here on this mid lane conversation.
Yeah, the mid lane one is interesting because at least when I was seeing the first series, I was really impressed. And the few games coming into the playoffs as well with Jensen, because when we were getting into the new patch, suddenly Team Liquid was playing to accommodate that. The Sylas, the Veigar, the Aries, the picks that suddenly you're like, well, when we get into the draft, we don't know what we're going to get. And we can now actually flock and play towards mid lane. So now the laning phase means a lot more. Where if you go towards the opposite end, I still think when you look at PoE, that they are trying to play a more control style. He's still trying to farm out lanes. Last time we saw him go up against 100 Thieves in the previous matchup, they're more concerned for, outside of lane. So it's not a dominating factor. And the jungle is still going topside. So I lean towards Jensen because of, he is still more flexible. It's just a choice to play more supportive picks around him.
Right. And once again, the thing is that I don't think PoE is going to mid-gap you as hard as Jensen would. Now, he also won't get mid-gapped. Like, I don't think there'll be a situation where he's getting Flame Horizon or something like that. But there won't be a situation where he causes this to other people, whereas Jensen will be in those situations where he's either up 100 CS or he might be down 50, but PoE will generally just stay in the center of that.
Yeah, my question, Hai, is I agree, Jensen does mid-gap, but do you think he'll mid-gap Power of Evil? Because I feel like with Power of Evil, he often neutralizes matchups where he should be
100
harder. Oh, 100%, okay.
In every game or in one game out of the 5, and that's all that matters?
All
right, roll the dice on that one. We'll roll the dice to figure out if he's going to mid-gap every single game. We got to take a quick break. When we return, we'll be checking in with our casters, Freaking Kobe. But as we go, you already know there's plenty of league action for everyone in the Wild Rift. Out now.
The thing that I miss the most is just this ritual of getting ready. You know, you meet up with your teammates, they get on the bus, you're talking about the games. It kind of comes really fast. You arrive at the stadium. You just hear like the crowd. Even nowadays, after playing League of Legends for like 6-7 years professionally, when I walk onto the stage, like you're a little bit anxious and you're a little bit like, okay guys, like it's actually going on now. Right now it's like, it's in a sense do or die, right?
I've been waiting.
I really love that feeling.
I've been waiting for this moment all my life, but it's not quite right.
Last year, I had experience play on stage without fans. It was still good, but it was not enough.
And this real is impossible, if possible, and whose blind word so clear but so unheard.
When I won in front of the crowd, I feel like everyone is on our side. It feels like we're together. So I missed it.
I've been waiting for the silence all night long. It's just a matter of time.
Last spring when we won, it didn't really feel too great. We won at home for the first time of any split. That was my first split ever winning in the LCS, and we were kind of like robbed of an experience. When you win NA, your reward is to go to MSI, you know? Kind of just lost our chance to go, and I really want to win this spring split so that we're able to go this year.
I've been in finals 5 times, and when the confetti is coming down, I was sadly on the, loser side. If you lose in the finals, like you made it all the way, and then to come and fall short, that feels bad, right? But if you lose 2-3, but it's like a close game, and then falling short, that's like really heartbreaking, crushing in the moment. I really want to make it this time again to the finals and really win it, because I've never won it all before, and that would be my dream.
100 Thieves are cut to pieces. Double kill over the power of evil, and TSM is on the victory mark. Cloud9, they can finish going to this one. Nice time to backline, and this is over. Going to the flash red line. CoreJJ here in the front line now. Bananas coming down. Always CoreJJ. It's always CoreJJ.
For me, it's been long day to get a trophy. We won the Lock-in tournament, but I want to win the LCS, and I want to make sure this year's is ours. I want to make sure people remember 2021 Team Liquid was dominant team. So this is our second step.
Team Liquid, 3-1, take them down. CoreJJ has had enough of this. TSM will defeat 100 Thieves for a shot.
They've done it, Flowers. They knock them all down.
Cloud9 takes down Team Liquid.
Cloud9 in the winner's bracket final. What a rebuttal from them.
One of the best feelings of winning is looking at your opponents, sad that they lost. It feels good to know that you've come out on top. When there are a lot of people watching you, the stakes are high, and you're in this big stage, a lot of players choke. Being able to separate some players from others is what the stage is really meant for. And I can't wait to play on it again.
Everything we have been through and I've been through, the hard times, the losses, the heartbreaking finals that I've lost before, I think everything was worth it. We are so close again. I'm sure we can make it and we can, win it all. I've been playing this entire split for that moment now.
I've been waiting for this moment.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mid-Season Showdown delivered by Grubhub. I am Freak. That man is Kobe, and while we may be far apart physically, we're close in spirit. It's the closest we've been in a very long time, Kobe. We are thrilled to be back in the studio for the rematch between TSM and Team Liquid here in our lower bracket finals. And this series is a little extra hype since we will see our second installment of our storied support showdown today on the Rift.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at the bottom lane, both parts of it. Let's start with Sword Art versus Core JJ, though, because these are two world's caliber supports whose teams both rely heavily upon them for playmaking and for shot calling in game. They are the paramount leaders of the LCS, and they've gone back and forth, creating a very fun rivalry thus far. Core JJ calling out Sword Art after their loss, and Sword Art responding with some trash talk of his own. You know, you only won Worlds, Core JJ, during the Ardent Sensor meta. That one stings. He also mentioned Core JJ often calling jungle support to the bottom side of the map. If they do that today, it will be a different jungler. Armeo will be responding to those calls rather than Santorin, so a little bit of a switch there. Moving on to their partners, though. The Young Guns, these AD carries, tactical as well as Lost. Two AD carries with the same origins on TSM Academy. And Tactical, he was raised up and sent off first, transferred over to Team Liquid, where he had a breakout performance. Rookie of the year for him, with big performances in both playoffs under pressure as well as at Worlds. But in 2021, he slumped. And he certainly slumped hard here for Team Liquid. If he truly is going to be that next great North American talent that everyone was thinking he is going to be last year, then what matters is how you pull yourself out of that slump. He's got that chance here versus TSM, an elimination game in playoffs. You need to go onto that stage with poise.
Yes.
And you need to perform under pressure. Lost, on the other hand, he replaced him on TSM Academy. He has yet to really make his name feared and make the TSM bottom lane feared. So this is his chance to do that.
I mean, Lost at least had the play of the split. We had that vote up on Twitter, so that's good. I got to be part of that call as well. Maybe he will change his name.
Well done.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, of course, we will see the story of the bot lane play out in a little bit. On the Rift, though, we got to talk about TSM Spica sharing some of his thoughts ahead of their series today. Let's take a look.
Thank you so much, Dash. I am so happy to be joined by TSM Spica ahead of your match. You bear the burden of defending TSM's title. How do you plan on taking down Team Liquid today?
Yeah, since we lost to TL in the first round, we've been preparing really hard, and I think we've improved on a lot of mistakes that led to TL winning against us. So, you know, I think we've been improving our early game, we've been improving our mid game as well. I think that's like mostly why we lost to TL. So we've been preparing about those things, and I think going to TL, it'll be a much more competitive match.
And since then, you've gotten to compete more through the lower bracket, which some can look at as a positive in terms of building that momentum. You obviously are very familiar with that from your experience last year. How is it like having to prepare for the match you have ahead, but also thinking about the possibility of C9 down the line?
Definitely right now, I think just take it step by step. I think that's the mentality you need to have. Just we're going to focus on TL, and if we do win, we also have a lot of things that, you know, we want to try against C9. We have strategies to prepare, so I think right now we're just focusing on TL, beating them, and then going to the finals.
One thing that I found very curious to hear in a TSM Legends episode was from you. It was before the 100 Thieves match where you were talking about feeling like you're either all in or not when it comes to your performance in playoffs. You're either getting all the smite steals or you ain't getting none of them. We've seen quite a few from you so far. Do you feel like you are on and in the zone when it comes to this playoff run?
I feel like it's a bit harder to get in the zone since, you know, it's like quarantine. There's like a lot of other external factors, but I think, you know, playing on stage definitely gives you a more energetic feel. And I think just playing on, you know, in person, on LAN, your opponent's like right next to you, I think I'll be able to get in the zone.
Yeah, it's so exciting, Spica. We are here in front of the Greek. Is it going to be a TSM win?
I mean, of course, it is.
All right, Spica's a believer. Thank you so much for coming by for this interview. And with that, we're going to go back to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, the Tigers. It's always good to get thoughts from our players ahead of the series, especially from the veteran on that TSM roster in Spica. However, last night we received some unfortunate news from Santorin. He tweeted out, "Super disappointed to say that I won't be starting tomorrow due to health reasons. I'm thankful Armeo is there to play on my behalf. It's frustrating to potentially miss out on such important games, but I'm doing everything I can to hopefully be ready to play second game onwards tomorrow. Now, of course, we are sending our best wishes to Santorin on his health, but for now, Armeo is in. What can Team Liquid, though, do to stabilize in this kind of a situation, Hai?
Well, for Team Liquid, they have a bunch of veteran players on their roster that are able to guide the newer jungler. He's not like a rookie by any means. Like, he's played on stage before. He's played on Academy. They've been doing it really well, except for the most recent game. But despite that, they've been doing well. So I think as long as the veterans are there to help guide him onto what to do, they'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree. And look, obviously, it's disappointing that Santorin can't play, but TL fans, don't panic. Armeo, he had a 7-2 split with TL Academy. He won a tournament with TL Academy in March, and he actually beat TSM in lock-in with this exact roster. So obviously, a lot has changed since then, but this guy has played on TSM before. He's played with TL before, so I wouldn't be too worried about him choking under pressure.
Yeah. It always comes down to, for me, the question of like what this team has actually been doing. Because like now the week, it seems, from the tweet that we've saw, like what the practice has looked like. What I would love to see is going towards an Udyr, a Hecarim, something like that, where it's a very straightforward win condition that they can play around. That's what I would love to see. I love the fact that Armeo has been like a top 3 jungler within Academy and has performed, as you said, in Northern Arena. I just want to see it pan out today.
Yeah, I mean, I love the point, too, that while we may have received the news just last night, Santorin made clear in the tweet that he's been bedridden for a few days. And so to your point there, Armeo has been with the squad. It's not so last minute, of course, while not ideal. But I think now the conversation then returns, Primal, to the side of Spica and TSM. The matchup for him as well changes within 24 hours. He may have been very well expecting to go up to against Santorin until this point. So let's talk about him.
Yeah, and he's probably, to be honest, breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. But there's still pressure on him, right? Because I think overall he's been really consistent. He's been really clutch. But he's also been a player where there are moments where he gets caught out a little bit, where, you know, he's invading Gromp and the enemy team's not there to support him, and it costs him a little bit. But overall, the number of Barons this guy has stolen in a split, the performances that he had in the series against 100 Thieves, where he was up there for Player of Series with Huni, means that this is a rock for TSM and someone they can really count on overall.
Yeah, and for the full split up until this point, TSM's done a good job playing through Spica. It's something that I've loved seeing, that when you have this confidence in a player like him, to, as you mentioned, there are moments, there are blips in the radars where those mess ups happen, but it's far less frequent. And he's looked like a shining star in the regular season. So it's something that I like to see, especially in this matchup where initially the goal was going up against Santorin, and Santorin is far more facilitating jungler. Now going up against Armeo, like you said, it's actually much easier in the sense that you know you're going up against a jungler who's supposed to be supporting lanes. You're going to get a lot of resources. Punish that. I want to see that from Spica.
Right, and I think just the thing is that when you have a sub jungler, they're probably not going to be dictating the team. I don't know Santorin's role in the team, but I'm sure he had a vocal voice in the early game, as most junglers do. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Armeo will have that same voice coming into this game. I don't think he will personally. I think he'll be more reserved. He'll allow other people to talk and do what they want him to do rather than him doing what he wants to do.
Yeah, maybe a little less command over the overall flow of the game coming from his position. But while the jungle has been a hotly contested role this spring, the loss of Doublelift means that the title of best AD carry in our league is also up for grabs. And of course, while C9 Sven might have the lead so far, I do want to talk about whether or not Lost or Tactical can make a case for themselves this weekend.
Yeah, and Lost, throughout the split, has not been in the conversation because of how well Neo, FBI, the players who've already been kicked out of the tournament. But Lost has been ramping up. This is what I love to see from a player who's been grinding. And this is the moment to be put into that conversation as the best AD carry, with the mantle being, Lost with Doublelift now being done with competitive. Yeah, Lost can have that huge moment like he did with that pentakill earlier this split, and then be just thrusted into the mix.
Right. Something I want to see from Tactical is having a return to glory, return to former play.
Yeah.
It's been interesting, this split, to say, for lack of a better term. So hopefully he's able to play well and bring his A game here. And then for Lost, I feel like his laning phase is kind of weak comparatively to the stronger AD carries like Sven, even Doublelift in the past. AD carries need to be able to assert their dominance in lane. I don't think Lost really does that. So I'd like to see him try and do that here.
Yeah. And to the question of, what's these guys' reputation going into this weekend and can they change that? The answer is yes. We have 6 to 10 games and they're the most 6 to 10 important games of the split. So if Tactical goes, gangbusters and is stomping people in lane and he's straight up carrying games and he's not jumping in on Triss, I'm happy to talk about a new Tactical who's returned to form. But right now, they clearly are people who are going to be under pressure to perform.
Yeah, Sven may be in the lead in that conversation at the moment, but both of these players will have an opportunity this weekend to change our minds about all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it comes down to the fact that both of them have in their front of the mind what their role and responsibility is be damn good team fighters. Be there when your team needs you. That's what I've seen a little bit from Lost. And I know we've seen that before from Tactical. So it comes down to if your supports are gone, if they're leaving you to go straight mid lane or to defend a top lane dive, and I expect that to happen, play back, play respectfully, know your limits when it comes to those team fights.
Well, as we get a high-level overview of each of the bot laners' statistics over the split, I want to go where you just were headed, to the supports in the lane. The question is, how will they ultimately step up to the plate today? We've talked already about how them as individuals have been willing to call out each other. There is that budding rivalry within the LCS between two of the most internationally, recognized and decorated supports that we have around in Sword Art versus CoreJJ.
And man, am I excited for this. It feels like I've been waiting all split just to see this. When Sword Art was announced to go in towards TSM, these are storied players that have been there. You look towards CoreJJ coming from Samsung a while back, being a world champion, and then being respected as a world-class support for so long. And then you go straight towards Sword Art, who has just come off a World's Finals run with Suning in the LPL, going into Worlds. He's been a leader for so long, coming in from Flash Wolves as well, winning multiple championships there. So this is where experience, there's no question about it, about both of these players. And if they see a play mid, they're going there, and the teammates around them are completely confident with the call. You love to see it, and that's what I'm looking towards, this matchup.
Yeah, and I think this matchup is going to be, to a degree, pick dependent. If Sword Art's going to go for Thresh, I want to see CoreJJ pick Nautilus and say straight up, I'm the better support, I'm going to counterpick you, and I'm going to smash you in lane. I see that High has a little bit more of a skew toward CoreJJ. I actually want to hear from High. Why do you think CoreJJ is that much better?
Well, we take a look at results. He's won a Worlds. Sword Art has not.
Ardent Sensor meta.
All right. You still need to be a proficient player to know when to buy Ardent Sensor.
I know. All right,
I
just
think his mechanics are just better. I've seen Sword Art throughout the split where he has had questionable mechanics throughout the time, whereas I don't see that often with CoreJJ. I don't see him missing hooks. I don't see him doing weird question mark plays where basically I wouldn't question mark ping CoreJJ. I would question mark ping Sword Art at times, and that's it.
Well, so I'm curious. I just want to throw one question back at you. Do you feel like their roles within their teams are the same, or do their different strengths and weaknesses actually speak to what they're meant to do on their opposing sides?
I think for this split, a lot of supports have been kind of playing the same. They pretty much roam when they're able to, whether it be top or whether it be mid, but usually with their jungler to make a play with them. I don't think any support has a different play style than the other right now. It's just who has the better timing and then who has the better mechanics to pull it off is what it is.
And what I'm seeing is different priorities between both those players personally. Like when I see CoreJJ, I think vision control, where he needs to be on the map to set up the team. With Sword Art, he wants to fight. Like TSM is a far more scrappy team than I've seen in the past because around Sword Art, that if he sees a good fight, they're rounding up for it. So I think they have a different focus and priority there.
All right, well, we've broken down the lanes. Now we need to break down your predictions. So tell me, who's taking it home? Who's taking on Cloud9 tomorrow in our grand finals? Raz, you're over here, so you go first.
I've been riding that blue horse for a long time. I've had faith in Team Liquid getting better for a long time, and then I got the news. I checked on Twitter. Look, the biggest fear for me is not the quality of the player, it's the team mentality changing. The roles and responsibility of what is the role of Santorin communicating? I think that change is massive. I'm going TSM with a 3-1.
3-1 is the call there. Wow. So, Hi, I'm going to move along to you.
I was also on the Team Liquid chain. I was really excited for them coming into it. I had them at 3-1, but then we got the news that Armeo is coming in. And I was like, I don't think Armeo is a bad player by any means, but I also don't think TSM is a bad team. However, having a sub-jungler in a jungler-focused meta I had to give it to TSM for this. I gave him 3-2.
A 3-2, so a bit closer of a series, but both of these guys hopping from one train to the other. So
A lot of faith
Primal,
being
what's
lost
the
here.
thinking?
Okay, I was on the TL horse.
Oh.
Then I boarded the TL train, and I stayed on the train.
Woo!
I think TL, I think they have an advantage top with Alfari. I think they have an advantage mid with Jensen. And I think they have an advantage bot if Tactical shows up this series. Overall, I totally agree. This is a meta where Armail, he can get bullied out. And I think you want to deny picks like Spica on the Udyr where he can bully Armail early game. But so long as TL has planned draft accordingly, I think they'll be able to cover the weaknesses. And they have much better objective control and team fighting, usually, than TSM.
You know what I'm seeing here, Dash?
What?
He's saying train. I'm seeing a ship. He's a captain of that ship. Ship's going down.
Oh, no.
Hey, all right.
Hey, but you know what? There's some pride to be taken in going down with a ship there, my friend.
A little bit of pride, but you won't be the
While
one
the
thinking
rest
it
of
that
y'all
goes.
abandoned. You took the lifeboat, you ran. This man is going to stay along with
when
it.
the ship leaves the harbor, you're gonna. I don't know how you're gonna get to the next country, man. You're kind of trapped here on
that's right,
TSM
yeah,
Island,
see,
all right?
I mean, you could be 10 feet underwater. So
No. Okay,
far
we'll
with
see.
this.
I do just have one final question. This is kind of the two of you who did make that jump from Team Liquid over to TSM, which is, do you think Spica is uniquely suited to take advantage of the sub situation? Or, again, as you mentioned, is it more about the remaining pieces of the squad and maybe the lack of ability that Armail will have to open up the map for Team Liquid?
I think it's a little bit of both. I do think that it's a great matchup that we're seeing a lot of resources go through Spica, and so he can make do with it and recognize that he can challenge the jungle a little bit more. But I think what you're communicating, roles and responsibilities, you're in that moment. It's all happening last minute that these, really last few days, that these changes are happening. I think that is, for me, the biggest factor. Not enough time with players. I've seen worse things happen to a team with insane, in fact, TSM, beginning of split, humongous player names, but they just didn't have the time to mesh together. And I think this is the worst of that situation.
Right. For me, it's just, I don't run into very many junglers that want to be told what to do and are happy doing that. Now, they might do that to Armail, and he might be happy with that, but Santorin probably had a game plan of how he wanted to take objectives, whether it's Dragon, whether it's Rift. He's making his own game plan. He's doing that. Here in the situation, I very much see them being like, hey, Armail, cover my lane. Hey, Armail, let's do Dragon, things like that, telling him what to do. And that dynamic is a lot different because you have to spend time while you're laning and telling someone else how to play their role. Whether that actually needs to happen or not, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, that dynamic between the jungler and the team is different. How drastic that is, I'm not sure. But I want to say it is a big deal because I believe Santorin was a big voice on their team.
We've heard it all from these three, from top to jungle to mid to the bottom side of the map. The reasons are out there. We've got a couple guys putting weight behind the TSM squad. We've got the faith over here remaining for Team Liquid to pull through. I'll remind everyone that these teams have already met in the mid-season showdown, and it was Team Liquid who ultimately reigned supreme, so it's TSM looking for revenge. All the blood, sweat, and tears for these two teams has to pay off today to keep them alive in our mid-season showdown. So for the first time ever, or not ever, oh my goodness, that would be ridiculous. For the first time in over a year now, it feels like forever.
How long has it been?
It's been quite too long, and I am so happy to be able to do this. I'm sending it over to the LCS studios to Freak and Kobe to get us into the games.
Let's get it.